Welcome back to the Daily Dean. So, what is really the freedom of speech? It can only apply to the government, and it only applies to government bodies and censoring the you. So this does not apply to social repercussions of saying something rude, or YouTube taking down your video because it doesn't follow their community guidelines, or Facebook taking down your post because it doesn't follow their policy. Stuff like those three. You can't cite free speech to protect yourself from like social, outcast, from YouTube removing your content, from Facebook, deleting your stuff, right? Because those are private organizations that don't have to follow the Constitution and don't have to listen to you because they're the ones giving you their platform and stuff. Now, I'll go through examples of each one, right? If, let's say, for example, some goofball comes over, is like, hey, you have a giant nose, you clown, right? And then you pop off on them, say, hey, that's a really rude thing to say, I didn't get to choose my nose, why do you have to be such a bully, right? And they say back, oh, free speech, bro, you can't do anything about it. I would personally be like, I would be flabbergasted. Like, you're citing the Constitution because you were like a bully. Like, how? It's just you don't. That's not how the Constitution works. Once again, you can be rude to me, but I can tell people how rude you were, and then you can't feel like you aren't protected socially from your actions, right? You're responsible for everything you say to another person, and you can't cite like, oh, free speech, you're being a real commie, anti-government, anti-American loser because you say that the freedom of speech doesn't, work like that way. But like, I guess point being, if somebody, this is actually related to that, you can't say those things, right? The government can't, persecute you for saying somebody had a large nose, just in the same way the government can't actually persecute somebody sharing racist opinions, right? Somebody can shout out loud how much they despise Asian people or black people or immigrants or, other, similar sentiments. And, the government can't shut them down in this public place or whatever because they technically, as lame as it is, they have the right to say those things out loud, But that does not stop people from losing their jobs because their workplace doesn't agree with the things they've done. It doesn't stop them from losing connections with their friends, or, oh god, hopefully their friends don't agree with racist opinions like that, right? And it doesn't stop, like, other people from possibly punching them, but it also doesn't, justify them technically punching them as well, because I guess, okay. Now, second example, well, summarize that. You have the right to say things, but you are not protected socially or economically or, other things related to that if the government isn't the one actually, doing the things. Because workplaces and companies and platforms have separate guidelines that they follow that may not follow the same, free speech amendment. So, let's say on YouTube, you post your hot take about racism, right? And you say, is racism really that bad? Right? And then you talk about how, racism doesn't exist in America, and then, YouTube takes down your platform, takes down your video, and they say, like, hi, your video has violated our community guidelines and stuff like that. You can't cite freedom of speech there as well, because you don't have the right to be using their platform. The platform, just like with Facebook as well, imagine instead of posting a video, you posted something on your wall, or you tweeted something on Twitter and said, oh, I think racism doesn't exist in America or something like that, right? Some crazy nutty thing like that. If you say either of those things and the company takes down your message, they have the right to do so. And if you make an uproar about that, one, I think you'd be a goofball to make an uproar about saying something discriminatory, arbitrarily discriminatory, but to then and then cry out free speech or censorship because they took down your stuff. Because once again, those are private companies. What they're doing is giving you a megaphone to tell other people your opinions, but the government, the Constitution does not give you the right to use the internet for sharing your opinions, right? As interesting as that is, because a lot of stuff has changed, since a lot of the internet has become so foundational and connective with everything else that maybe it's not a legislative issue right now, so passing in the Constitution. So also related to that, I think I was watching these interesting videos. Maybe check them down below. I'll summarize them. We have an interesting obsession with our founding fathers and how the things they wrote down. For example, the Electoral College, right? I think the majority, or I mean, maybe not the majority, but okay, hot take: the Electoral College should be disbanded. Not maybe not, like just make it so people can vote for their president. I guess is the best summary, right? And the government, the founding fathers creating the Electoral College and saying this is the way it should be, but then nobody changing it because there's some like obsession or some like a glorification of our founding fathers for the things they put into the Constitution. It's a little unhealthy. How are we supposed to enact change if we're always looking back to things people wrote 300 years ago, right? Is it like the thing? Okay, so one of the amendments is the government cannot search your things without a warrant, right? And then they applied that to phones, right? If your phone is locked, it's the same as having a locked door on your house, and they cannot search your property if if they don't have a warrant, or if it's unlocked, then they do have the right under reasonable suspicion. But our founding fathers wrote that 300, 200 years ago, right? Maybe closer to 200 years ago, right? And they didn't know the things that we had right now and the changing, values that we have right now. And I think it's kind of bizarre, right? That we're following the things that these people thought of over 200 years ago and still think it's like the best way to go about things. Now, I'm not saying that their ideas at the time, I think, wow, great looks, guys. Good stuff, making a democracy and stuff and, constitution. But now, how are we lagging behind in democracy? How are we lagging behind in human rights? Universal healthcare, other things like that, public higher education, things like that. How are we lagging behind where other developed nations have that, but we don't? It's because I think, in part, glorification of the past, right? Things that people have thought of, and not a willingness to change for radical new ideas. Because the idea of public healthcare, right? Free public universal healthcare might seem a little radical to you. You might hear, oh my god, this is actually going a little long. Okay. Sorry, I guess that's all. So, that was a little bit of a rant about how we glorify founding fathers, even though they lived over 200 years ago and could not possibly have thought of phones and technology and the growth of culture and values. But that's all I have to share. So, I'll put down all the videos that I think are helpful and related down below. So, I hope you have a wonderful week, and goodbye!